Hello, Josh George doing my weekly spread predictions here. And Wake Forest and Virginia. Wake Forest at -4 here. Look, the FPI Football Power Index gives Virginia a 70% chance to win this football game here. And when I look at this game in particular and just the different things, I know Wake Forest has done really good against the spread this year. I just feel like Virginia is going to find a way to win this football game. The question on this game is, can they win it by more than 4? If you think so, you bet Virginia. If you don't, you bet Wake Forest. Just because I think Virginia is going to find a way to win this football game, I'm going to go ahead and bet Virginia and say that they win by 6 or 7 or something like that, and not just a field goal. So on to our next game here. Georgia and Vandy. Georgia has done really good at covering the spread. Their offense looked really good against South Carolina. At -33.5, this comes down to talent. Georgia's number 2 in the 247 talent composite. Vanderbilt is 59. So I think the bet is clear, and it is Georgia. LSU and Mississippi State. 16, 18, and 6 are the key stats here. See, LSU was -16 last year and lost, but -16 and 6, and they covered in 2019 and 2018. This is a much smaller spread at -3. LSU seems to cover typically, with the exception of last year against Mississippi State. So I feel like they're going to find a way to win the game and cover, even though they're on the road. So I think the bet here is LSU. Now to Missouri and Boston College. Look, this is a toss-up game. I looked at the 247 talent composite. Missouri ranks at 45, and they're in the top. They're both in the top 15 rivals. Boston College is 50th in the 247 talent composite. Missouri is -2, which means Boston College is a home dog getting 2 points. The bet here, I'd say, is Boston College because they are getting the points at home in a toss-up game. So you're getting 2 points, so you take Boston College and hope for a 1-point game, basically. Now, here we go. This game is really interesting. The bet here is Southern Methodist, and because of Tanner Mordecai, he's 81 for 111 with 1,023 yards and has been throwing the ball all over the yard. You see, and of course, TCU has a Lincoln Riley backup as well, but this is one of those games that it's the Iron Man game. It's a rivalry game, big game for Dallas and for that area. It's just gonna come down. It's to the wire, and SMU's getting a lot of points. TCU's probably gonna find a way to win this game, but SMU keeps it close. And this is my top 5. This is one of those games I think you bet SMU, you get your money out of it, getting the 10 points. This is one that I would really take. SMU, they just look really good. Their passing offense looks really good, and I think this is a good bet right here, getting the 10 points. Same kind of a thing with Tech here, getting 11 against Texas in a game that's kind of a rivalry game. It's been close. I put on here the over, just so you know. I've got the over-under is 61. This is going to be a high-flying game. Steve Stark is going to want to be showing what his offense in the Big 12, and Texas Tech he's had a high-flying offense. I know it's been tuned down under Matt Wells, and they've tried to get more of a defensive identity here, but at the end of the day, in this game, you're going to see Texas Tech. So the safest bet may be the over, but I'm going to take Texas Tech in this one just because I think it'll be 10 or less. Now, Boise State and Utah State. Okay, -17, -9, and -2 are the magic numbers here for Boise State. They've been both of those, and they have just absolutely dominated this Utah State team, winning in over the last 3 years as the favorite. including a last year's win of 42-17. So I think here the bet is Boise State. Now, UMass is one of the bottom 10 teams here and have not really looked good all season. Obviously, they're getting 35.5 points against Coastal Carolina. Jerry's been a great coach for Coastal Carolina, and I think they ended up having a draw against Kansas against a giant spread. This one's got a 35 and a hook here. You might consider betting UMass because of the hook, but I tell you, I'm going to take Coastal Carolina. Now, San Jose and Western Michigan. This game is really interesting because San Jose averages 23 points per game. Western Michigan averages 28.7 points per game. -2 spread. It's going to be a close game. Take the team getting the points here if you're going to bet on this one. So I've got San Jose getting 2 points in this big game. Now, Utah and Washington State. Look, I think the bet here is Utah, and I'm pretty confident. I'm number 4 on my confident list right here, betting Utah, and I'll tell you why. Utah has lost 2 games in a row as -7s, but their defense, it all comes down to their defense, and that defense was 11th in rush defense last year, hasn't been getting the quarterback. I think Sac Lake City comes alive, and they find a way to win by 2 scores here. So bet Utah and trust in that front line. A&M and Arkansas. A&M has a really good running back in Isaiah Spiller and a really good coach in Jimbo Fisher here. But Arkansas's got heart. And what they did against Texas, they had the same spread. They were getting 6 points, and they took Texas to the woodshed. Another Texas school, another -6. I think the bet here is Arkansas. Now, Clemson -10 here. I think that's the bet. I know that NC State's an underrated team here. They're 35th in the 247 talent composite, which is higher than a lot of people expect them to be. They've got a good talent, and Clemson's offense has been in the sand. I just think that Dabo Swinney gets Clemson out of the sand. I know Brett Venables is going to play a good defense. This may be the best defense he has. And if they win 14-0, then they cover that spread. So, I mean, if it's 21-7 or something like that, they cover the spread. So I just feel like Clemson's going to find a way to cover that spread. Iowa State and Baylor. Iowa State is 0-3 so far against the spread. A team that was 9-3 last year against the spread. -6.5 points, which means to cover that they have to win by a touchdown in Waco. Now, Waco was picked in the bottom of the Big Ten by Lindsay Sports, by Phil Steele, by you name it, just about. And they're at home in what many people expect to be a close game in a Big 12 opener. But the bet here is Iowa State. They are due, and they are probably going to be very flashy and win big and put Baylor 6 feet under in a way. Rutgers and Michigan. Now, here's some stats on Michigan. I know this game went to 3 overtimes last year, but Michigan this year is winning by an average of 47-11, and they were compared a lot to Rutgers just in general last year, and I guarantee you they don't like it, and they're going to find a way to win and probably cover this game. I know Rutgers is 3-0 against the spread, though, so maybe one to watch out for, but I'm going to take Michigan. Now, Louisville and Florida State. Florida State has lost 9 in a row when getting points here. They have not been 0-4 since 1977, though, and they're a home dog. Something in my gut says they find a way to win here. The safe bet might be Louisville in this one, but I'm going to go with my gut and take Florida State. Illinois and Purdue. This is just an old-fashioned rivalry game, but something that really got my attention is Isaiah Williams has the most receiving yards at 250 among both teams here, and he plays for Illinois. And I still feel like Purdue's got the best wide receiver room, but That really surprised me. And when you look at them getting 11 points in a game that's a rival game, probably going to be within 10, the bet here is Illinois. Now, UCLA and Stanford. 46 to 44 is where this rivalry is at. Now, in 2019, UCLA was at Stanford -4, won 16-34. Could be an omen, but something tells me that David John Stanford's going to find a way to win this game. So I'm going to take Stanford, but man, it's maybe one you want to watch out for this week. Tennessee and Florida. Look, Florida was 6-4-1 against the spread in 2019. A team that just, I mean, they find a way to win, but they just seem sluggish sometimes in games like this. They're -20 right now. Right now, Florida might be the bet, but what I would do if I was a smart gambler is I would wait for that number to creep up to at least 21, maybe 21.5. If you can get 21.5, take Tennessee, and Tennessee will end up covering that spread, I feel like, because it'll be within 3 touchdowns, I feel like. So that's just because if, especially if Florida comes out sluggish and things, lets Tennessee score early, or just is just a slow moving game, especially after the high Florida's on. So I would just wait and watch. This is one of those wait and watch games. And if it starts to creep up, then some of the money's going on Florida. People are Vegas is trying to move that number, and then you can get Tennessee at a much better number. Now, Nebraska and Michigan State. Many of you know I've got Nebraska winning this football game. Look, Nebraska is a good team. We don't know if we're going to get the Nebraska that showed up against Illinois or the Nebraska that showed up against OU. Scott had a really good game plan for that, but Mel Tucker has really changed the dynamic of this team. They're ranked 20th, they're undefeated, and they're just firing on all cylinders. Something tells me that their luck runs out, the ball bounces the wrong way or something, they lose the game. The bet's Nebraska. Now, Oklahoma State and Kansas. Oklahoma State is 3-0. Both of these teams are, and I've got the over-under because both these teams threw 13 passes each, so running the clock could end up getting the under. The under might be a really good, safe bet, and you may be able to make some money on the under with this one at 45 points because it's going to be a low-scoring game. But OSU is 3-0, but they've won by 7 against an FCS opponent, 5 against a Tulsa school, so a group of 5 team, and then another group of 5 team that they only beat by 1 point in Boise State, which is an average of 4.3 points per game. So Kansas State is getting 7.5, and that some people have told me that number has creeped up to 8. So the bet is Kansas State here. The reason that number is so high is yes, Kansas State has some injuries at quarterback and wide receiver, but they have a really good defensive line, maybe one of the best in the Big 12. This is my number one game, my number one bet, and it's Kansas State, and it's because that line, when you tune in to watch this game, you're going to see Kansas State in the backfield all over Spencer Sanders, all over that running game, and if OSU ends up pulling this game out, it's not going to be by more than a touchdown, and 7.5. You're hooked if you bet Oklahoma State. You've got 5 points to spare if you're Kansas State, and so that is the bet right there. And Kansas State may end up winning this football game. So, if they can outrush Oklahoma State. Now, Kentucky and South Carolina. Beamer versus Stoops. 2 names that sound really good in college football in the same sentence together. Stoops has just been in the SEC longer, just been with it more. Look, I really don't know what to expect in this game. South Carolina might be the safe bet, getting 5 points at home, but I feel like Kentucky's going to win the game. It's one of those really interesting games, but against the spread, I'm going to pick South Carolina. Now, Alabama was 9-3 last season against the spread, just so you know. The great Alabama. Southern Miss has a little guy called Frank Gore Jr. at running back. You may have heard of his father. And he is one of the best running backs. Getting 44 points takes Southern Miss. West Virginia and Oklahoma, my number 3. And here's why. Neil Brown, and he's the head coach at West Virginia. At Troy, he beat a Nebraska team playing up, and he beat an LSU team playing up. Now, you're only getting 15.5 points, but that number is going to creep up. Some people think it will creep all the way up to 20 and things like that. So if you can get it at that, bet West Virginia, because Oklahoma's only going to win by a couple scores. North Carolina and Georgia Tech. North Carolina finally got their offense going, scoring over 50 points. The problem is last year, week 3, guess what North Carolina did? They scored 59 points. The next week they came out and lost 28-31 against Florida State. They are minus 12 points in this game. Georgia Tech's offense was just insane against Clemson, and their defense looked good, but I don't know if it was their defense or Clemson struggling. I think the bet here is North Carolina. Now, here's another one that I really like. I like BYU minus the 23.5 against South Florida. South Florida's average, their defense is letting in 43.5 points per game this season against FBS opponents. That's Division I mainstream. And it's really bad. They're also ranked in the bottom 10 right now. And I just think BYU finds a way to cover this 23.5. Their offense gets it done. And it may be one of those 45-10 games at the end. And obviously they'll cover that now. This is one that I think you could really make some money on, betting Arizona getting 28 points here. You see Oregon minus 28 points. Well, the last time that this was a big game with a huge spread, Arizona, everyone was betting Oregon to cover 3 to 4 touchdown spread in 2018. Arizona romps them 44-15 in 2018. So be wary of this one. Oregon may end up winning the football game, but it's going to be closer than the experts think here. So, now the game of the week here, the Fox Big Noon kickoff. Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I feel like Wisconsin's going to win the football game. They've got the top 5 D in the nation. They had a top 5 D last year. Notre Dame has struggled on offense. So Wisconsin wins and covers. I am Josh George. This was my picking against the spread video.